Welcome and welcome back, everybody. Tabletop Toki here, and in today's video, we're doing a tier list stream specifically about bunny board games. So thank you if you're here joining us live. Hope everybody's having a great week so far. And if you're watching in the future, thanks for tuning in. We have quite a few games here. Some of them are more bunny heavy than others. So I did take some liberties, but I did try to make sure that there was like a decent amount of bunny within the game in order to include it here on this list. So I'm really excited to delve in. As you all know, I love bunnies. In case you didn't know, the word Toki, hence the channel name, Tabletop Toki, is actually bunny in Korean. So very big affinity for bunnies there. All right, but without further ado, we're going to jump right in here. We have a lot of games to get through for this month's tier list. So first on the list, we have Bunny Kingdom, which is one of probably the most well-known bunny-themed board games. This is a drafting game where you're going to be selecting cards and using them to place out to claim different areas on the board, placing castles and bunnies in order to get resources and points, etc. I would say that overall, I do think that this is a really solid game, but for me specifically, I don't think it necessarily plays out in a very satisfactory manner. I know that there's been an expansion since I played it last, which was quite a while ago, called like Bunnies in the Sky or something. I'm going to put this at a solid B for bunny tier. It's, like I said, a great game, not necessarily for me. I found that some of like the area control elements didn't really speak to me with drafting. There are some combos you can set up with certain resources and like the tiers of your castles, but it definitely doesn't have a spark of something super innovative that I feel like I haven't seen in other games. So that's where we're going to go ahead and leave Bunny Kingdom. The next game on our list is called Charge and Spark. This is a little two-player bluffing game from Jelly Games, and it has some little bunny robots that you're playing as, trying to advance on the path to get to the center, or you can also win by depleting all of your opponent's health. So each person will simultaneously select a card, flip them up, and then based on what cards you've selected, you'll be able to perform different moves and or block your opponents. I think that overall, this one is really cool. I got it on a whim in one of my Japanese games unboxing streams. We unpackaged it and took a first look at it. I really do like these, two-player bluffing games, and I think this is a really solid one. So I'm going to go ahead and put Charge and Spark in the A tier. The next game on our list is one of the ones that's a little bit less specifically about bunnies, but has a pretty healthy amount of bunny in it, and that is Tea for Two. So this is overall an Alice in Wonderland themed game. Spoiler alert, we may have a couple of these on the list just because as many of you may know, there are several characters in this Lewis Carroll universe that are directly bunny related. Tea for Two is a similar kind of two-player back and forth game. But with this one, it's a little bit different. It almost, in fact, is kind of like an auto battler. So if you've played Challengers or Wizard's Cup, I think is the new one, another one from Jelly Games that I think Pandasaurus just picked up. This is a game where you have a pre-constructed deck of cards, and both people will flip over the top card and compare their values. Based on the difference in values and who has a higher or lower value, you'll get certain abilities, resources, or you'll be able to purchase other cards, which will then go into your deck. It seems very random, but I actually find this one to be really cool and strategic. Like the more that you play it, the more that you can see how different strategies might evolve based on the certain cards that you select and how you build your deck. So I think that overall, it's a really interesting one. And if you like those two-player games or auto battling type games, this is one that I would say you definitely need to check out. So this one for me as well, I think I'm going to go ahead and put in the A tier. Again, once you play it at first, I think a lot of people might be turned off by it because it just feels random, but there's a lot of deep strategy that you can get into with it. So that's Tea for Two. Devil Bunny Needs a Ham is a game that I have not played, so we're going to investigate a little bit. It says 2 to 5 players, 30 minutes, and you're playing as sous chefs trying to get to the top floor of a skyscraper by scaling the outside. Okay, so it looks like it's kind of like a racing game where you're moving up. There are several games in this Devil Bunny universe, I think. I am not familiar at all with any of them, so I would love to hear if anybody has experience with these games and how that works. Let's see. And it's dice. It's a print and play. Okay. So that might be a fun one to check out on a future P&P stream or something like that. I'm intrigued. I'm also not familiar with this IP. I don't know if it is related to something totally different. So again, if anybody has any insights, that would be interesting to see. I'm going to tentatively put this one in the not interested category because I'm not seeing a lot of mechanics that seem like they would really lend themselves well to something that I would be interested in trying out or something that seems really innovative. But speaking of print and plays, the next game on the list is called White Rabbit Dice Solitaire from designer Greg Jewell. This is a small print and play game that I believe you can print and try for free. It just requires a few different dice. I have been meaning to print this one and play it. I'm really excited to try it. I finally, from months ago, resolved my printer issues and now have a working printer. So this is definitely at the top of my list in terms of ones that I want to try out and feature on a P&P stream. Hopefully sometime soon. So I'm going to put this one in the want to try. All right, so the next game is definitely one that might seem a little more familiar for most of us. I don't know, it's kind of obscure, but this is Everdell. So this is like a tableau building game with some resource management, drafting, etc. If you're not familiar, here it is. So you're getting different forest creatures, placing your workers out to these different areas. It is, a very popular game. I will say that I have personally only ever played it, I think, with the Pearl Brook expansion. What are the other expansions? There's so many at this point, honestly. Let me see if I can find them. I've played with the Pearl Brook expansion, and I don't know that I've played with any others. My take on it was that I did not enjoy the base game kind of whatsoever. I did enjoy it quite a bit more with Pearl Brook. I haven't played with any of the other expansions though, because I do feel that the Pearl Brook expansion was like just the right amount of game there. I feel like it was getting on the side of being quite a bit bloated. So the thought of adding more expansions or more modules or things like that, even if they clean up the base game, I'm just not sure about that. I do know that there was recently, I believe, a 2-player version of Everdell released, or like a condensed down version. I would have to look into that. I've heard good things about it, but I think I was so turned off by just the basic Everdell game overall that I'm not super interested in trying the new one unless somebody has it or I hear something to the contrary. So I'm going to say, it's not the worst game, but there's definitely a lot of room for improvement. Some of the expansions address that. Some of them make it more convoluted. So I'm going to put this in the C tier. This next game is kind of the opposite. It's one of the more obscure games that I've ever come across. And this is called Kune vs. Lakia, a chronicle of a royal Lapine divorce foretold. That's right. This game is all about royal bunny divorce. So one character or one player is going to play as Princess Lakia. The other is going to play as the Duke Kune, and they are getting a divorce. So the entire game is card management and trying to play cards in order to score different points and to bribe the different council members into being on your side for the divorce settlement. It's a very bizarre game. I will say that. I've never played anything quite like it, and I've played a lot of different card games. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but I think I'm just so intrigued by not only the theme, but also how uniquely the mechanics come together, that this is one that I've really enjoyed. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily for everyone. Like I said, it's definitely odd, but I don't think it's necessarily bad. So I'm going to put this one in, I don't know. It's hard to say between like B or C tier. I think just based on the intrigue and novelty of it, I've played it a couple times at this point. I'm going to put it in maybe the B tier because like I said, I think it does edge out a little bit in terms of innovation and having some mechanics and working with cards in a way that I haven't quite seen before with vying for those majorities. So that's Kune versus Lakia. Rabbits Detective Usan is one of the cutest games I've ever seen. I'll be honest. Like, let's just look at this cover here. Is this not the most adorable thing you've ever seen? So basically, it is more of an activity than a game, I'll be honest. But you play as a rabbit detective who's trying to help a little bunny find its friends because they got separated at like the festival, the fair. It's mostly a memory game. There are some different modes where you can play competitive, cooperative, etc. I don't think it's the best game, but as far as the presentation goes, really spectacular. I think that this is definitely one that is great for like a younger audience or people who want something very casual, but it's not anything to write home about in terms of the mechanics. So I'm going to put this one in C tier. Mech Bunnies is a game that I have not played, or Mech Bunny, excuse me, but this was just recently kickstarted by Best with One Games. I'm super excited for this particular title from their line of solos, from their solo series. Basically, it is a game where you are using cards to craft a Mech Bunny suit. And yes, it's a roguelite as well, which these are all words that speak to my soul, not just within board gaming, but in general. This is one of the few Kickstarters that I did in fact back, and I'm very excited to try. It's like at the top of my list in terms of new games coming out that I'm excited for. So I'm going to put that in the want to try for this particular list. Raccoon Tycoon doesn't necessarily have a lot of bunnies, but in case you haven't seen them, there is an entire railroad set promo that features bunnies. Let me just pull those up because these are actually adorable. The Jackrabbit Railroad, if you haven't seen these, oh my goodness, I love her. Just perfect. What a beautiful creature. So if you're not familiar with Raccoon Tycoon, it's a game where you are going to be bidding on various different sets of cards and then using those cards to manipulate the market based on different types of goods that you can purchase. And then you can either use the money that you make from trading those goods to buy railroads, or you can trade in the goods themselves in order to secure these little villages here. In addition to that, there's some engine building because you can use money that you have also to buy buildings. I'm not a huge fan of bidding games or games that lean heavily into the economic side of things, which this one definitely does. But I think that the theme and presentation, as well as how clean those different aspects work together with some multi-use cards, really lend itself to a really awesome experience. So I'm going to say that Raccoon Tycoon is going to be an A tier for me. Again, I personally wouldn't probably rate it that high in terms of my favorite games, but I think based on the fact that it has a lot of mechanics that I would normally shy away from, and the fact that I still really love it, I think it's definitely earned its spot in the A tier for this list. Moon Bunny is a newer game that I believe came out. I mean, I think it was demoed at Gen Con last year and perhaps Essen as well. But it says 2025, so it looks like it's coming around here or coming out this year. This has grid movements, that collection. It looks like is it just a solo game? Okay, it's 1 to 4 players. That makes more sense. And tile placement. So I have not gotten to try this game, but I do really love the art, and I've had several people send it my way. So you're a master bunny alchemist inspired by folklore. Guide your bunny assistants on a journey through the lunar landscape to gather rare Asian herbs. Okay, so each assistant has a unique hopping pattern. Okay, that's interesting. It sounds like, and I'm not sure. Okay, so each player has a different rabbit that can hop differently, it looks like, or do you have multiple bunnies? I'm not quite sure. But this looks like an interesting little puzzle. Oh, okay, so you do have multiple bunnies. That makes it a lot more interesting. I was anticipating, based on what I had seen, that you have one rabbit that hops around, but it looks like you can swap them out. So it looks like there's some set collection, tile placement. I do really like the art. I mean, honestly, this entire tier list is busted because I am so heavily biased in favor of bunnies. So apologies in advance. I'm trying to stay objective. But in terms of this one, since I haven't played it yet, I will say that it looks like not only the presentation is great, but there are some interesting things with the tiling and also manipulating different bunnies around. Very different game from something like Cash Claw, where you have grids and you're having to manipulate pieces, or like Nourishima Hex. But I wonder if like the movement of your bunnies almost gives that similar kind of feel, based on just like manipulating those different pieces around. So I'm definitely putting this one firmly in the want to try category for this list. Another Alice in Wonderland themed game, but that again heavily features bunnies, is Where Am I? Alice in a Mad Tea Party. So this game is really interesting. You actually get a little dining set that you set up, and on your turn, you have to either place out different items onto the table or different guests. Each guest will have a postcard with some different like deduction and stamps and things that you're placing out to basically try to decide which dishes you think will be seated or placed in front of each person that's going to be seated at the table. And by person, I mean Alice or any of the other characters, including the Marsh Hare. What is he named? I'm not sure. But essentially, you're like actually creating this little diorama, but the placement of all the pieces and your deduction about what you think other people might be scoring is kind of interesting. Again, this is a game that's definitely kind of out there in terms of how it plays. Like, I've not played a lot of things quite like it. But I do think it presents a lot of interesting elements. And again, just visually seeing it all set up, it's just a real treat. So I'm going to put this one in, I think, B tier. It's not the most solid game that I've ever played, but again, there's a lot of interesting decisions to be made there, some bluffing, some deduction. It's got a unique mix of things, which I really appreciate. Make the Difference is a drawing game. And so this is from Oink Games. Basically, you have these sheets that you are manipulating with your marker and making 5 differences from one sheet to the next. And you get to kind of push your luck a little bit with the size of the differences that you make and where you hide them, based on, you know, the length of your lines and whether or not they're discovered. You can gain more points versus less points. So you don't want things to be too obvious. But yeah, this is a really interesting one. It comes with a variety of different themes, all of them featuring these cute little bunny characters. I just think that this is such a fun, creative way of inspiring some like childhood nostalgia. I did a lot of these like spot the difference games growing up. And so being able to interactively play with that and having a little bit of bluffing in it, I just think it's such a cool concept. I wouldn't say that it's a game for everyone, again, based on the mechanics themselves. And there are some kind of fiddly aspects with like the actual implementation. For me personally, I have the worst memory, so sometimes I forget where I drew my differences on my sheet. And with just like measuring and making sure that people are getting the right points based on the size of the different lines. But I think overall, it's just such a cool concept, and it's implemented about as well as you could ever implement something of this nature. So I'm tempted to put this in A tier just because for what it sets out to do, I think it does a really great job. All right, we are moving right along, just over halfway done. Bunny Party at Maple Valley. So this is a set collection game where you are playing as different characters in Maple Valley and throwing a party for the Moon Festival, getting different decorations. Each player will also have special unique abilities, as well as like occupations that dictate what types of decorations you get and how those move around the board. So there's some set collection, a tiny bit of take that, but it's not really a main game. It's more just like the cards that you play can interact with the other players, as well as like discards and etc. I will say that I really love the theme of this game, and there are some mechanics that are kind of cute, but they don't fit together as well as I would like them. One of the main issues that I personally have with this game is that it's like a shared victory situation where certain cards especially, or certain abilities, will allow you to like win with the partner next to you because they want you to like work together to decorate, which I don't know how I feel about that necessarily. I think there are some other games where it lends itself a little bit better, but this one kind of falls short. So unfortunately, even though I do love the art and presentation, I think mechanically this one falls into the D tier for me. Eila and Something Shiny, another bunny, very heavy bunny themed game with a main character. So this one's interesting. It's a story-based game with like some decisions that you're making as you go along. It's a solo game, but I know that a lot of people, it's definitely for a younger audience, and I know that a lot of people have played it with like their kids or things like that. I've heard that the themes in the story get pretty intense and pretty dark as you go along. I've only had the pleasure of trying this out one time and going through like the first chapter or two. But basically it's I don't know if it would be deck manipulation basically, but as you go through and make choices, certain cards will be like pulled from the deck or put in, and you keep going through these cycles to see if you can meet objectives. I will say that the first two chapters that I had played through, I wasn't super enamored with them. Again, I know that I'm a little bit older, more experienced than the intended audience, so I think that that makes sense. I think that like a lot of people have spoken very highly about this, especially those people who have gotten this to play it like along with their kids and things like that. So that being said, I'm going to put this in C tier. I think it might be, a great introduction to these kinds of games for people that are newer to the hobby or younger gamers. But I don't necessarily think that I saw anything in those beginning stages that felt innovative enough to be like, oh yeah, this is like a really solid choice no matter where you are at in your gaming journey. So that is Eila. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm not sure. Eila and Something Shiny. Forest Shuffle is a tableau building set collection game that does feature bunnies. In fact, the first time I played it on BGA, I went full bunny strat. But essentially, you're getting these different cards that will either be split vertically or horizontally and tucking them under various different trees that you're planting throughout your forest. Based on the different sets that you have, the different other cards that you have on each tree, symbols matching up, special abilities, you'll be able to score them all throughout the game and get trigger other benefits. I do think that there are a lot of interesting combos that can happen in this game, but overall, it just feels so unwieldy with the amount of cards that you have, tucking them under. Like even playing this game like as a physical version, I just was so distracted by the spatial, like tactile feel of it, and not in a good way. But even playing it on BGA, I felt like the deck was just so bloated and there were just so many options that you were going through. Players do have a decent amount of agency with resetting the forest, which is that place where you're going to draft most of the cards from. But overall, it just felt really unwieldy, even though there were a lot of great concepts within the game. So I'm going to put Forest Shuffle in D tier. Again, I know it's one that people like, but I do think there are a lot of games that either have similar themes that are more tight mechanically or similar mechanics with a different theme maybe that, again, are just a little bit more tidy in terms of the mechanics overall that give a similar feel. Paint the Roses, we have another Alice in Wonderland themed game. This one, the bunny tie-in, is that they are the tracker for how far the queen moves as she's trying to catch you running around the garden. So this is a cooperative deduction game. And what you're going to be doing on your turn is placing out these tiles and then marking with cubes how many matches they make for certain patterns that you have based on the color of the roses or the shape of the bushes, or sometimes the combination of the two. It's a really interesting deduction game. I particularly love logic puzzles and deduction. I'm not always a huge fan of cooperative games, but this one has limited communication in that you can really only communicate with your teammates and give them clues about what you have by placing out those cubes, but also the tile selection that you make and where you place it on the grid. I found that it plays really well at all different player counts. I believe the overall player count is 2 to 5 players. There are also several modules with one of the expansions, which is called, let me find it. Yes, Escape the Castle. I have not gotten to try any of the modules, and I've played the base game a lot of times, and I've not gotten bored of it yet. So I think that just kind of goes to show how much I really love this game. I do think it was on my top 10 games of the year list from like 2 years ago or something like that. It was one of my most played games for sure. So that all being said, this is an S tier for me, for sure. I just think it's such a fantastic design. And if you like deduction games, cooperative games, Alice in Wonderland theme, just overall, I think it's just a real banger of a game. Unlike the amount of time that I've spent playing Paint the Roses, Creature Comforts is a game that I have not played. So we're going to delve in a little bit here. It says winter is coming, prepare your burrow so you and your family can be comfy cozy. Okay, so there's some auction, Dutch. I don't know. What is Dutch auction? Is that different from normal auction games? There are contracts, die rolling, endgame bonuses, events. A lot of stuff going on, it seems like. And this is from the Kids Table board game team. So it looks like there are quite a few different things going on as far as resources, dice placement. Okay. So essentially, based on what I had seen about this game when it came out, I heard some good things, but I did hear that it overstays its welcome quite a bit. And to me, it seems like it's a little bit messier than it might need to be for the weight of the game. Yeah, ages 8 and up, but it's 45 minutes. That to me sounds a little bit like a red flag. Just in terms of like attention span and the length of the game. I think it is a little bit chunkier, but it's hard to say. The BGG weight ratings are the most unwieldy of all the ratings, and it does have a solo mode. So I'm sure, I know that a lot of people said like kind of an introduction to these kind of Euro style games, but I don't know that I would want to give somebody an introduction, whether they're younger or newer to the hobby or what have you, or newer to that particular mechanic, with a game that takes probably an hour or more to play on a first play, I would imagine, since it just has the 45 minutes. So this one for me, although it has a lot of things that I think that I would like, my impression is that it's a little bit messier than I would be interested in trying out, which is one of the reasons why I haven't played it so far. So I'm going to put that one in the not interested category. Hoppy Salmon is the Easter version of a very popular game called Happy Salmon. This particular version plays up to 6 players, and basically what you're doing is trying to get rid of all the cards in your hand by calling out and matching with another person and doing that action. So there are like ones where you have to high five, or you have to like spin around with each other in a circle. Then you have Happy Salmon, where you like hit your arms together, but this one is Hoppy Salmon. So really it's just that all the fish have bunny ears and it's Easter themed. I can't imagine what other list I would put Happy Salmon on though for the tier list. So I decided to include this version here. I think that as far as like activity games, dexterity games, speed games that get you up and moving, this is a really great icebreaker to bring to like conventions and things like that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one in A tier. Again, not everybody's bag in terms of the type of game, but as far as that goes, like this is just a really solid little one that's easy to throw in your bag and bring anywhere and play with, you know, anyone. Magic Rabbits is another game that I've not played. So it says we're going to cooperatively try to organize numbered hats and rabbits without communicating. It's 1 to 4 players and plays in 3 minutes. Wait, what? Is that right? Okay. So You're going to randomly place the rabbit tile face down under the hat tile face up, and then place dove tokens depending on the number of players. And you only have 2.5 minutes to rearrange them. So you get 1 through 1 under 1 and 9 under 9, etc. Okay, so you can do one of the 3 things, and then there are some hidden envelopes that you can add. I'm intrigued by the fact that it plays so quickly. And again, I do really like limited communication. I don't know that I would love this game or even keep it, but I'm intrigued enough that I definitely want to try it, especially if it's just a 3-minute investment. So we're going to put that in the want to try. Speaking of deduction, MicroMacro Crime City. So this is a deduction-based game that has a lot of different maps. It was super popular a couple years ago, I believe. But basically, you have some different cards and things, and you're scouting out on these like giant Where's Waldo-esque type maps, placing clues and marking different things down to try to solve crimes. I think that the concept is really interesting, but I played through several different scenarios, and I'll be honest, I was not really feeling it. There are a lot of escape room type games or deduction style games, mystery games. Like, that is my bag. I love that. I grew up playing Flash room escape games like every day, all day after school. So something like this, where you have to like kind of search and piece together clues based on the visual information that you're provided with, as well as some cards, I feel like that should have been something that I really enjoyed. But like I said, unfortunately, I think that this implementation didn't really suffice in terms of like satisfying that craving that I have for those types of games. I did play it with 2 players only, I think. So it might be a different experience playing it with more players. I can't imagine that I would enjoy it solo. I think more of the enjoyment might come from interacting with other people. I don't know. This one's a weird one for me. So unfortunately, this one really did miss the mark. I think it's like one of those games where even if I was to play it with other people who enjoyed it more, I couldn't get into it. I'm tempted for me to put this in F tier, but I do think that it's at least doing something a little bit different than some other room escape type games and presents it in a new way. So for that, I'm going to put it in the D tier. And speaking of D, our next game is Dixit. This is not necessarily a bunny-themed game, but as y'all know, one of the most iconic pieces is the bunny meeple that comes with it. This is, again, kind of a deduction-style game where you're giving clues to other players to identify different art cards. I think it's definitely one of the, I wouldn't say necessarily first, but it's definitely one of the OG games that inspired a lot of other games in this genre. Did it come out before Mysterium? I'm not sure. Hold on. I'm pretty sure because 2008 and Mysterium came out in 2015. Yeah. So games like Mysterium or Muse is another one that comes to mind when I think of Dixit. When I Dream is another great example that uses similar mechanics. I'll be honest and say that I played all those other games before I ever got to try Dixit. And for that reason, Dixit did feel a little bit lackluster. So I would say, you know, for its time when it came out, great, awesome, paved the way for so many other great games. But in terms of looking at the overall composition of board gaming and these style of games that have come out since, I would say that Dixit probably falls under D tier. I know that there are a lot of expansions and a lot of extra content for it, but I don't know that they really change up the game too much mechanically. From my understanding, it's mostly cosmetics and adding like new packs and things. So please correct me if I'm wrong. If there are, you know, more updated versions of Dixit that really play off of the mechanics and kind of update them a bit, I would be interested in trying those. But in terms of my play of Dixit and how I feel about it in general, we're going to put it in the D tier for now. All right. We have a couple more games on the list. Wrangling Rabbits is a cooperative dexterity game designed for a younger audience for sure. And this is one that I got to try very recently. Basically, you're rolling these dice that have different sides on them and arranging fences, trying to get as many rabbits in there as possible, but rabbits may run away, they may fall asleep, they may escape. You can lure them in with carrots. It's a pretty chaotic game. It's definitely like a younger kids game. There's not much to it. It is very random. There is maybe some skill and decision making involved, but not too much. So although it's a very cute concept and I think it could be a fun time, in terms of the design of the game, I'm gonna have to put it pretty low on the list. We might even say D or F tier, just because it's so random. Like, I do like the idea of a fun dexterity cooperative game for a younger audience, but I think if we're just judging on the game itself and not on the experience, like, I've had fun playing this game, do not get me wrong, but as far as the game goes, we definitely could have taken that, I think, and put it with some better mechanics that kind of reward players a little bit more or make the luck of it a little bit more fun. All right, 3 more games. So this is the last game on the list that I have not personally played. Oops. And let's see. I actually need to pull this up because I forgot to open a tab for it. So we're going to do that really quickly. But this is called Bomb Busters. So let's put that up. And I will pull this over here. Okay, there we go. So we have Bomb Busters. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining. So this is a cooperative game, it looks like. Players defuse bombs by deducing and cutting unseen wires of different values. Okay, so it's deduction, cooperative, there are communication limits, there's some memory. Okay, my memory is really bad, but this sounds cool. I do like the concept of like diffusing bombs in games. I have several games about that, I've realized, as I'm reflecting on my life. It looks like there are the different wires that you have to cut, and perhaps, these are just like, I want to see the actual game, come on. It looks like you have different cards that you're accounting for and different levels of danger, perhaps. I would like to see more of the actual gameplay. Oh, so everybody has different wires with different numbers. You're trying to clue in the other players to what's going on with that. Okay. It looks kind of involved. I think I would be curious about how many, like, the rules overhead on this, because it seems like it might be kind of complicated, and I would definitely prefer something that's a little more streamlined. But I do really like the concept of this overall in terms of the theme and some of the mechanics with it being cooperative and limited communication. It also has an 8.0 rating with a lot of different ratings. Am I crazy? Have this come out here? Or is this Pegasus Games? But it's from Hisashi Hayashi. What is happening? Okay. So I would say I'm definitely very interested in trying this one out. I don't know where I'll be able to find it, but it seems like a really good time. If y'all have any insight on that, please let me know, because this sounds like a fun one. Rabbit's Potion is a print and play game, and a very challenging one. I actually posted on Instagram about this one a bit ago. So basically, this is a roll and write game where you are a rabbit alchemist going around on the map and crafting potions. So this is a little bit of, let's see if we can find an image of like the map. So you have this map over here that you're going through based on the different dice that you roll and collecting these different ingredients, which you're placing into your potions, kind of like a draw Tetris puzzle in that regard. Or you can assign them to these different vials to craft specific potions that can get you different abilities. It's a really interesting game. I've never played anything quite like it. There are a lot of puzzly elements, but there's also a lot to keep track of in terms of your movement on the grid, the shop, the different potions you have, and then the different bottles that you're crafting here. In addition to the ingredients, and we can see here, like, these cards up here will give you different scoring bonuses based on how well you fill patterns into each of your bottles. And then your dice can also be allocated to like brewing the potions, raising the heat level on them, and different types of things like that. I just think like this is it's a very involved game. But it is a really cool one. So if you're into print and plays, roll and writes, or like more chunky puzzly games, this is a really fun one to try out, and I would definitely recommend it. So that's Rabbit's Potion. I think for this list, I'm going to put it in B tier. It's a little bit longer than I would typically like for a game of this style, but again, there's some really innovative mechanics, and it's very hefty in terms of what all you're doing on your turns. All right, and last but not least, we have Village Green. So this one isn't explicitly bunny, but a lot of the cards do have bunnies on them. So this is a game where you are crafting a large grid of cards based on their different features and greenery and making your garden. In addition to that, you're also getting these award cards that you're placing out on the edges, and those will dictate scoring for each of the rows and columns that you have. I think that overall, this is like one of the best, most concise, cleanest, quick card drafting games. And there's a lot, it plays great at every player count, whether you're playing with one player, solo, 2 players, head to head, 5 players. Like it really makes the game feel a little bit different with each player count, but it doesn't weigh it down or make it untenable. This is like one of the first games that I did a solo party video for on the channel years and years ago. And it is still one that anytime someone brings it up, I'm like, yes, let's get it to the table. This is excellent. Just the intersection of being able to choose your scoring objectives, filling out your garden, triggering a couple little combos. There's like just enough there, but there's where it's easy enough to learn, but it's definitely challenging to master. And the variable length of time on the game based on how aggressive people are with building out their garden versus focusing on maximizing points can be really interesting as well for varying kind of some of the strategies that you might have from play to play. So Village Green, I mean, I don't know if this is clear, but that's definitely an S tier game for me. So overall, a really great variety of different games that are bunny themed or have heavy bunny involvement for this month's tier list. If you have any other suggestions of bunny themed games that I should check out, please let me know of all the themes, of all the things. Obviously, I'm a little obsessed, so I'm always on the lookout for new games featuring anything bunny and or rabbit related. And that being said, thank you again so much if you were joining live or if you're watching in the future. If you don't mind giving a thumbs up, it really does help out the channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, like, hello. But yeah, thanks so much as always for joining me, and I'll see you next time.